Welcome into a brand new edition of the Desmond Johnson Show. Loaded show today. It's another sneak peek. We'll be on our regular schedule, I think second week of August, but too much stuff going on. Couldn't wait that long to get on board. Loaded show today. Let's go ahead and get into it. You know what? I don't like that intro. I don't like that theme. I'm not going to use that one. We're going to use the new one. There's a new one that we're debuting. I thought it was already in here and it wasn't, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to debut a brand new theme. My buddy James Glenn, you may know his voice if you're in the area, predominant producer, rapper, whatnot. Been around for years. He actually does the intro for our high school football intro if you're listening on terrestrial radio. But here's the brand new intro for the Desmond Johnson Show.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city need that. I've been number one, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you won't and get your weed whack. I'm going harder than a martyr on the slaughter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's fourth and inches, I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
That's the actual theme song. So shout out to James Glenn for the hookup on that. You are watching a sneak peek episode of the Desmond Johnson Show, brought to you by the Emergency Responders Credit Union in Winston-Salem. Definitely hit them up for all your needs if you are a first responder in the area. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson. Loaded show today, kind of high school centric today. We've got Ryan Stone in the house. He'll be with us each week doing best bets with Ryan Stone. He's got a couple of bets for us for college football and NFL that you guys can lay down. Actually, Ryan was one of the first podcasts we had on Tobacco Road when we first started with best bets when it was illegal to do it in North Carolina. So now it's actually legal to do in North Carolina. So we thought, hey, why don't we bring back best bets? So we got Ryan on for that. And we'll probably chop up a little bit of what's going on in sports, college football in particular. And then the major high school portion of this show, Winston-Salem Journal and Greensboro News and Records prep beat writer Marc Pruitt will join us. We will be revealing our massive WTOB, WCOG high school football schedule release we do annually. As you guys know, we are the largest provider of high school football in the Triad, maybe in the state. I was looking at our schedule, Ryan, and there's a couple of weeks where we've got multiple games at once. I think week 3 we have 5 games going live at the same time, and they're like the biggest games in the state. West Forsyth, Weddington, Glenn, Chambers. I'll be up in the mountains doing East Forsyth, AC Reynolds. So it's massive. It's huge. Grimsley's got Rollsville like that night, which is probably the biggest game in the state. So we're all over the place, and we'll get into that as well. And then Southwest Guilford head coach Marlon White's going to join the show. If you've been paying attention to our socials, Southwest Guilford has joined on board the Sports Network with Tobacco Road. We'll be doing their home football games as well as their home men and women's basketball this season. Shout out to Brendan Chrisman, the AD over there. Marlon will check in and give us a state of the franchise with Southwest. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the stuff going on right now in terms of NIL in North Carolina. Saw a huge transfer of power last night. We'll get in that too, and I'll get Ryan's opinions on that as well. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, it's a good time to do this episode. Honestly, it kind of felt really well for you because you got the the news with Kendra Harrison yesterday, and then you've got Faison Brandon announcing his college decision tomorrow, the quarterback at Grimsley. So,
and I should probably announce we are going to have that live stream of Faison. Of course, the Grimsley Sports Network is here at Tobacco Road as well. We will be at Grimsley tomorrow at 3:00 live. Number one prospect in America for the class of 2026, not just North Carolina, not just Guilford County, the whole country. Faison Brandon, number one ranked by 24/7 Sports. He's giving his college commitment Saturday. We will be there. It'll be streaming live here on the YouTube channel for Tobacco Road, youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. I think there's a fire or something down the street from my house right now. I can hear it through my headphones.
All the intricacies of live radio right now. With this
everything's just going on right now. This is why it's a sneak peek. We're getting all the kinks worked out. That news dropped with Kendre yesterday. If you hadn't heard him, talk to Marc a little bit about it as well. And we've been talking about it in our chat with JP Monday over the past couple of weeks. We kind of had an idea something might be going on, but we didn't know for sure because the season's coming up here like in the next couple of weeks. But if you hadn't heard, Dre Harrison's transferring from Reidsville over to Providence Day, private school in Charlotte. If you haven't been keeping up with it, a lot of this feels like it's NIL related in terms of the decision the state made a couple weeks back to not allow public school kids to receive NIL money. Providence Day is a private school. They are not underneath those same rules. And your thoughts on that real quick, Ryan, because you do high school. You're doing high school football for us. You do high school football in Virginia now. Do they have NIL in Virginia?
They haven't. There's been discussions about it. I don't think they've actually implemented any kind of thing where they haven't done anything this crazy. That's for sure. Where you allow the private schools to do it, but not the public schools. I just don't understand how that's a level playing field. But
I don't know why they didn't think about this when they made the ruling that it's going to cause a flood of kids they're either all going to go to the top public schools or they're going to go to those private schools to get the money. And I can't blame him. He's got 2 more years of eligibility left.
I don't blame Kendre Harrison at all. So I don't want what I'm about to say to think anybody's saying that I'm dunking on the kid because I'm not. And I could never dunk on him a day in my life anyway. I just it sucks for Reidsville. Like they get a once in a 100-year talent. The guy that everybody's calling the next Julius Peppers, and honestly, it might be more, at least in terms of both sports, might be more talented than Julius Peppers.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah,
I'm saying in terms of both sports. I'm not saying he's as good as him as a football prospect or whatever. But Peppers wasn't the world's best basketball. It certainly wasn't a top 25 prospect in basketball.
Right, he was just freaky athletic. Yeah, that was him through. Yeah,
Reidsville gets a once in a 100-year kid like that, and then they end up losing him because of an NIL situation, and you can't blame the kid. You can't blame his family. I mean, you take advantage of the opportunities that you're given, but it does suck for the schools.
Yeah, and again, I mean, and it's not like I feel bad for Reidsville, but not really bad because they did last year when they had them. They did win the state championship in football and basketball in 2A here in North Carolina, and they're still the the football capital of North Carolina, self-proclaimed. They've got over 20-something state championships. So they're not hurting for talent.
They still have Deontay Neal. If nothing happens with him, they're still going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I do feel like that there are folks in Shelby that were probably super excited to see that Dre Harrison was no longer going to be playing for the Reidsville Rams.
I think that anybody on that Reidsville schedule probably was.
Yeah,
exactly. Not trying to tackle that guy anymore.
I mean, the kid, if you don't know, he's 6'7", 200-something pounds. He's kind of built like Julius Peppers was in high school.
230, I believe.
230, and they'll put some weight on him. Yeah, by the time he gets to college, wherever he's going, I know Carolina's looking at him, a couple of others as well, and who knows where he ends up going. I hope he stays in state. I'm a Carolina fan. I would love for him to be a Tar Heel, but we'll see. But that's going on, so we'll get a little bit more in depth with that with Marc Pruitt a little bit later on in the show. When he stops by here in about 15 minutes, we'll get into that and we'll get to the schedule release as well. Let's get into these bets. You said something about you had a couple college football and pro. I'm very curious about this. So where you want to start off at? You want to start off with college football?
I'll start with the NFL since we kind of got a little bit of it last night with the the Hall of Fame game and everything last night. And I'll start off with the first one saying that this number has moved since I bet it. So I would no longer bet it. If it moved back to the original number I took it at, I would take it again. I took the Panthers a couple months ago to win over 4.5 games. I'm a believer in Dave Canales. I think their schedule is pretty manageable. They have a good defense, good running backs. They've done a better job of putting talent around Bryce Young this season. I feel like it doesn't feel like his number one target's a 37-year-old receiver. However old he is. But, you know, and you look at the schedule, I mean, they get the AFC West, which, I mean, yeah, they're not beating the Chiefs, and they're probably not beating the Chargers, depending on what happens with Justin Herbert's injury. But even then, Harbaugh is such a good coach. But the Raiders is a very winnable game. The Broncos should be a winnable game. And then you look at the division they're in. You know, they could win a couple games in that division. So that's 4 games right there. Most teams are going to win a game that they shouldn't win. So I could see them winning 5 games. I think that's a good value play. That number has moved to over 5.5, though, because I guess a lot of other people thought, like I did when they saw that. Yeah. So I would not take it at 5.5. I did take it at 4.5 a couple months ago when that was available. Another one that I like, and this one's kind of, I mean, it's kind of, I kind of couldn't believe the number. It's the Chiefs over 11.5 wins. Like, this is a team that won 11 games last year, a year that Patrick Mahomes didn't have any fun. Didn't have anybody to throw to outside of Travis Kelce. And they really, like, their offense, I think, was 20th in the league last year or something like that. So what did they do? They go and get Xavier Worthy, who's the fastest guy in the history of the combine. They found somebody that Patrick Mahomes probably can't overthrow. And then they went and got Hollywood Brown, who is a established.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Oh, man.
Their defense is pretty much back. They still have Pacheco running the ball. And guess what? Same thing that I just said about the Panthers. They're in a division where they should win, I think, 5 of their 6 games. They maybe lose a game to the Chargers. And they play the NFC South. So that's at least 3 wins, if not 4.
Yeah.
You're looking at 8 or 9 wins out of the 10 games there. And then, so essentially, if you're 8-2 out of those 10 games, all you're asking the Chiefs to do is go 4-3 in the other 7 games.
I think they can do that.
So, I mean, over 11.5 seems like a pretty safe bet to me for the Chiefs. I mean, I know that's a lot of wins in the NFL's up and down, but they're the favorites to win it again, and there's good reason why when you look at what they did this offseason.
I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but do you know who the Chiefs are playing division-wise? I know
they play the NFC South, and then you know that their schedule outside of those what I mentioned is challenging. It's certainly, but again, we're asking Patrick Mahomes to be over 500 in those 7 games.
I've just begrudgingly, especially the past 2 years, it's just like, why bet against Pat Mahomes? Why? Yeah, like, he just every time he just don't miss. Like every time.
I don't know why you would bet against it.
I went through it the first couple of years, like, nah, this ain't right. This dude's throwing across the chest, like behind the back passes. This is football. He's throwing no look passes. Like, this ain't right. Something's wrong with it. But you see it enough times, you're just like.
And this year he has actual weapons.
Yeah, now he's got weapons again. Like, last year was the year for everybody to catch up. And like, really, I mean, all he did, they lose Tyreek Hill 2 years ago. Yep. He goes out and has like his best statistical season ever and wins the Super Bowl. They come back last year, go back to back. Let me ask you this question while I have you out, because I asked my boys on Believe in Panthers this question. Does it change? Because I think everybody right now, we consider Tom Brady the GOAT, right? Like, he's the GOAT.
Yep.
Does it change the argument? Because Pat Mahomes is nearing the argument right now.
Yep.
If they three-peat, something no one's ever done before, and Pat Mahomes is the Super Bowl MVP or whatever, does that make him the GOAT? Does that bring him into that conversation? Because it'd be kind of like the Jordan Russell conversation, wouldn't it? That Jordan has 6 rings, Russell has 11, but Russell's not the GOAT. It's all about moments, that kind of thing.
It becomes a very real argument if he three-peats.
He'd have 4 at that point, right?
He had 4, so he's over halfway to Brady. I mean, winning 3 in a row is something that Brady never did. So, I mean, he would have that leg up on him. And I think, you know, from a talent perspective, he's more talented. I don't think I'm somebody that was a big time Brady fan, but Mahomes is more talented. You can look at him and see it. But and if he three-peats, then the argument becomes legitimate. Right now, I don't think it's a legit argument. But if he three-peats, I mean, even he could win 3 out of 4, and it would still be a legit argument because at that point he's got 4.
Yeah,
and I don't even think the dude's 30. I mean, I don't even think he's 30 yet.
I don't think he is either. I think he's like 28, maybe. Yeah. So he's got another big deal probably before all is said and done. Like, that's why he's just sitting back watching Tua and all these other quarterbacks. That's
why, he got asked earlier this week if he felt like he was underpaid, and he said no because he doesn't need to worry about it. They're going to take care of it.
No, yeah, he's making $45 million or whatever per season. Asking if he's being underpaid is nuts to me. To be to play 17-game season in the NFL, and maybe he is underpaid. Kind of like that whole LeBron's been underpaid his whole career. Jordan was underpaid his whole career. Pat Mahomes is in that category where it's starting to be like, you're still underpaid. Is he? He's probably going to be the first. Well, he was the first $400 million quarterback. I guess he'll probably end up being the first.
500 million.
600.
What the numbers keep doing. We'll see what Dak Prescott gets.
Ooh, what do you think he should get? Good Lord. Why is he not signed?
What should he get and what he will get are two very different discussions.
Yo, Jerry was talking kind of reckless the other day. He's kind of sounding like, hey, the way it sounded at the press, well, they were at training camp. The way Jerry was talking, it was almost like, hey, we stumbled into Dak. Like, I'm kind of cool just stumbling into somebody else. Like,
I mean, like if they go through a season, like say they don't get CD Lamb signed and like CD Lamb holds out the whole year, they're not making the playoffs without CD Lamb.
Right.
So, I mean, you would be in position potentially to take a quarterback in the first round next year if they wanted to go that route. But, I mean, that's looking into the future, obviously.
They didn't do anything. That's the weird thing.
Their offseason's been terrible. Like all they did was lose pieces.
Yeah. That's not a kicker.
And if I was them, I don't know what they're waiting for on the CD Lamb deal because, like, it's the blueprint's there. You pay him like right around or a little less than what Justin Jefferson got.
And that's the 29 million per and 5 years and be done with it. And I think he's the most important one. He
is. I think he 100% is.
Yeah, I think he is.
Parsons has another year, I believe.
Yeah. So you can kind of wait a little bit with him and tag him or whatever. But and Dak's one was last year. So give me another NFL best bet. We got best bet for Rhinestone.
So the last one, and this one is kind of going off of what we saw last season. Speaking of the Cowboys, I like the Green Bay Packers to go over 9.5 wins. I think Jordan Love and what him getting paid and what we saw from him the second half of last season and going into Dallas and absolutely torching the Cowboys and almost beating the 49ers last season. And saw JP's comment there about another Braves hat. I've actually had this one for a while. I guess I just haven't seen him in a while.
He's a little behind. He's a little behind.
But I know that's a tough division. But I think they play the AFC South, which I think is a little bit of an underrated division. But I think they can win three out of those 4 games. I think over 9.5 is very attainable for the Packers. We saw them win 9 last year. I think they're going to be better this year. We saw the additions that they added. They went and got Josh Jacobs, McKinney at safety on the other side of the ball. So I think the Packers are going to be improved this year, and I think they're a real threat to come out of the NFC and be in the Super Bowl.
I don't know if I'm completely buying them yet. They do seem like the kind of the popular pick based off of really. I think everybody still has that Cowboys playoff win in the back of their mind. How they just completely dismantled the Cowboys. Nobody was really expecting that, and they're ahead of schedule. They're really young, so like it's one of those things where it's like they can grow together. Yeah. Love got his money. Yeah, I like that too.
And he was probably, if not the best, he was the top 3 quarterback in the league the second half of last season.
Yeah, I think he only threw like 1 interception or something over like.
He was ridiculous.
He was pretty good, and they're like again they're young. When you get a group that's like young, that's why I'm excited about Carolina because they're fairly young, and I don't think it was a problem of lack of talent last year. I think it was a lack of direction more than anything else. Because like I kind of forgot as much as they talk about Xavier Legette. We were talking the same thing about Jonathan Mingo last year at this time. Like, and they're basically the same wide receiver. So it's like they've got stuff there. Green Bay is about a year or 2 ahead of schedule. Detroit is in that division though, and I don't know if I feel like Detroit's ready this year.
And the Bears, man, the Bears could be improved this year. So
do you like Caleb Williams?
I like everything they've put around him. I think if there's a if there is an opportunity to see another like CJ Stroud type of rookie season, it's him. Oof. Like I'm not saying he's going to do that. I'm saying if there's an opportunity.
If there was, no, I totally agree.
I like Jaden Daniels a lot too. Like I think Washington's going to be really improved, and I think they're kind of an under the radar team. And if Dallas isn't careful, Washington may catch them for second in that division.
I feel like this whole thing is going to explode in Dallas's face. Like, well, I don't know. It can't. Dak was really kind of playing for a contract. It feels like all of them are at this point, and they've won 12 games the past 2 seasons. So I mean, the regular season isn't the problem. It's when they get into the playoffs. And I don't know what that team was that showed up last year in the playoffs. That just the defense just was like Swiss cheese, like
I think
gone running.
I think it's going to be a fight for them to get back to the playoffs this year. Like, I think the NFC is better, and I don't know if they're a playoff team this year in Dallas. I mean, they didn't improve anything, and I feel like the NFC's gotten better. So
right, yeah. So best bets here with Rhinestone. Got a couple of NFL picks there. Said you had some college football picks as well.
A couple college football ones too, and these are both actually plus money bets. At least when I took them, they should still be plus money bets. If you get them right now, I like Utah to make the college football playoff, which was like a plus 30 bet. You factor in like Utah, they had a little bit of a down season last year. They were 8-5, 8-4 in the regular season, but they didn't have their quarterback Cam Rising for the entire season. He's coming back this year. He's 25 years old. He's coming back for his 7th year. The previous 2 seasons with Cam Rising at quarterback, they made it to the Rose Bowl both seasons. They're going into the Big 12. I think they're a top 2 or 3 team in the Big 12 immediately, which puts them in that discussion for the college football playoff. They have one of the best home field advantages in that conference right away. They also have the luxury of those teams having to travel out to Utah, which is further trips than they're necessarily used to. So I like Utah to make the college football playoff. They're also year in and year out one of the best coach teams in the country. They're extremely disciplined. And then the other one's an ACC bet, and I like Virginia Tech over 8.5 wins, which is a plus 120 when I took it the other day. I think like Virginia Tech they have the most returning production of any team in the country. Not the ACC in the country. They bring back 86% or something like that of their production from last season. They improved a lot in the second half of the season last year. It kind of went under the radar a little bit, but Kyron Drones is a dual threat quarterback that I think is kind of a under the radar candidate for ACC Player of the Year. They got better on the offensive and defensive lines. Their schedule's pretty favorable. They should go through their non-conference undefeated, I would say. And then a lot of the tough games, they avoid Florida State. They do have to go to Clemson. I believe Miami comes to them. So I think that they're a very real chance. I think they could win 9 to 10 games. So I like the value on over 8.5 at plus 120. And honestly, I think the ACC. It's a time to bring that up because the ACC football media poll came out the other day, and I think we're looking at a year where the ACC might be. I don't think we're going to have a national championship contender in the ACC, but I think we're going to have a deeper conference.
How many do you think can get into this now 12-team playoff? How many do you think from the ACC can actually get in?
I think 2 is probably the cap.
FSU.
Again, FSU was picked to win it, but there's like how good does and I say this as a Florida State fan, but I'm a realist. Like how well does DJ Uiagalelei play? Like I think that's what it all kind of comes down to. The talent is around him. All the talk about him in training camp has been out of this world, but and he was good. He was really good for Oregon State last year. Does he elevate his play? I think he's got to be a little more consistent in terms of completion percentage and things like that. If he plays well, then I think, Florida State should be the favorite. I think Clemson's going to be really good again. I like Virginia Tech. I shuddered. I like NC State. I think NC State brings back a ton, and they bring in Grayson McCall, who's an older quarterback who has had some success at Coastal Carolina. And then these other 2 that I'm going to say, I say this, and then I kind of want to consider jumping off my balcony here. Because it's been said about these 2 teams so many times, but I think Miami should be really good.
That pops up.
Should. And then I think like UNC, the recruiting classes they've been putting together, I'll say this: if UNC doesn't win 8 or 9 games this year, it's time for Mac to go.
He just said he's not planning on retiring anytime soon. I'm like, that's cool and all because the recruiting's fantastic, but
they're not delivering on the recruiting.
They don't stop anybody. Yeah. They literally don't stop anyone. I feel bad. Shout out to Travis Shaw and the boys playing football for Carolina from the Triad, and I'm hoping they do turn a corner. My guy Bryce Baker, I just saw him yesterday over at East. He's going to be leaving in December to go to Carolina as an early commit. So. They've got the talent. Like Carolina and State, really Duke and Wake have really recruited this area really well the past 4 or 5 seasons. Like if there's a 5-star kid in this area, lately it's been even more rare for him to get out of here to go to usually to the SEC, Georgia, Bama, or whatever, Florida, whoever. They've kind of stayed here. I'm looking at NC State. Like I feel like this is the year. They've been flirting with 10-win seasons and winning the ACC and all that stuff for the past couple of years, knocking on the door. They've kind of taken on that mantle that Clemson had, where we were saying Clemson's Clemsoning, like they would get 7-0 and then they'd lose to like Savannah State or somebody, and we're like, oh well, there's Clemson for it. NC State's kind of right there right now, and with the playoffs expanding to 12, I'm kind of looking at NC State like, okay, this is your shot. This is your shot to get in there and make some noise, and once you get in the playoffs, who knows? At that point, it's going to be fresh for everybody.
I will also say Louisville, I expect to be better this year too.
Wow, so we just named like half the league.
6 to 7 teams, I think, that are legit contenders to win the league. But the problem that comes with that is, like, you could be talking about like a 9-3 team or a 10-3 team winning the league or something like that, and then you're only probably talking about one team getting in the playoff.
Yeah, and they'd be like the 10th seed or something like that, or whatever. Well, no, they'd be
if you win the conference, you're a top 4.
Yeah. So shout out to Notre Dame. So I haven't figured out that even if they're number 1 in the country, the highest they can be is 5th in this thing. So maybe they'll figure it out and join the ACC one day.
Well, I mean, but if you're 5th, you may draw like a whoever the like Liberty or something like that. So I don't like whoever
that first one,
whoever the non-Power 5 is.
Then you're going to be on the road, like, right? You're going to be on the road pretty much after you get past the first.
After you get that first one,
Yeah. So good luck, Notre Dame.
Money talks. Money talks.
Follow him on Twitter at Rhinestone Sports. He will be with us weekly, giving us best bets, especially as we get into the season. Again, off next week. That's why I wanted to do a sneak peek this week. We'll be back on we'll actually start our regular schedule the week after that. I think it's the second week of August, where we'll be on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. And you can catch Ryan. I think we got you. We have you on Fridays?
Fridays, I believe.
Yeah, so we got you on Fridays. So we'll have you on Fridays then. Appreciate you coming through, man.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, so don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll have head coach Marlon White from the Southwest Guilford Cowboys and Winston-Salem Journal and Greensboro News and Record prep beat writer Marc Pruitt will join us as well. We'll dip into high school. We'll talk about the Southwest Guilford Sports Network. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of that. Some announcements to make in terms of a branded coaches show that we'll have for them, where that will be and what day of the week that'll be, so Southwest Guilford fans can come by and enjoy. And we'll get into the schedule release also with Marc Pruitt for WTOB and WCOG. You don't want to miss that at all. We'll be back in just a bit. It is the Desmond Johnson Show. Back in a flash.
Jake from State Farm.
We have to know.
Yeah, there's a State Farm pajamas.
No, what if we have to talk to somebody about our policy, but it's late at night?
Call us 24/7.
Great, because what if someone still calls his mom for everything?
We'll walk you through everything. At State Farm, we're there for your what ifs.
Yeah, Mom, everything's great. Yeah. I mean, not my mom.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
When you want the real deal, call Susanna Nunn in Kernersville today. Kernersville, craving that authentic Southern flavor? Look no further than J. Pepper's Southern Grill. If you're ready for a mouth-watering journey through the South with soulful comfort food that'll make your taste buds dance. Their secret, locally sourced ingredients and time-honored recipes that bring the unmistakable Southern charm to every dish. Plus a full bar with microbrews. Whether it's family meal, a date night, or just some good old Southern hospitality you're after, J. Pepper's Southern Grill has you covered. Join them today and experience the heart and soul of the South at J. Pepper's Southern Grill in Kernersville, where Southern flavors come to life. Discover the menu at jpeppers.com or give them a call at 336-497-4727. When you combine soul food with comfort food, you get Taste of the Triad. For great Southern cooking that tastes like a slice of heaven, come by Taste of the Triad. 4320 Old Walkertown Road in Winston-Salem. Owner Sabrina Wingo and staff treat you like family and are able to take care of all of your catering needs and private parties. Recently selected as one of the most accomplished restaurants in the Triad area, have Sunday dinner any day of the week at Taste of the Triad, 4320 Old Walkertown Road in Winston-Salem.
Looking for your real estate expert in Kernersville? Meet Nikki Rottweiler, your go-to expert with the unrivaled knowledge of the market. From hidden gems to prime profiles, she's got the inside scoop. Don't miss out on the opportunity of a lifetime. Contact Nikki Rottweiler today and experience the difference firsthand. Call Nikki at 336-448-9309 to get started. Head Realty Group, opening dreams one door at a time.
It's the high school football game of the week.
Listen, man, tonight is the night to make a name for yourself.
Not one, but two of the best games in the Triad every Friday.
All comes down to today.
Catch the action on WTOB 980 AM and 96.7 FM.
Who got my man?
Or tune in to our second game on WCOG 1320 AM. Both games powered by TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com, your home for Triad Sports. So where exactly can you hear Tobacco Road Sports Radio?
Oh, North Carolina, Kernersville, Salisbury, you know what I'm saying? Burlington. I didn't bring you Raleigh, Durham, Greensboro, Charlotte.
For the best in live sports debate, live sporting events, and more, tune in to Tobacco Road Sports Radio. TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com.
It's the North Cape, baby. Archdale.
Hey, y'all, Chinese Mobile Auto. Is your car broke down? Are you stuck somewhere? Do you need a mechanic? You don't want to call a tow truck? Call Chinese Mobile Auto. He'll come out to you, do your work, whatever you need done, your regular maintenance, or if you're broke down on the side of the road, give him a call. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call 336-423-6241. You don't even have to see me. Just let me know what's wrong with your car, and I will come and fix it, y'all. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, I'm on the Twitters, whatever you guys need, 336-423-6241. As always, I'll be seeing you.
Welcome back into a sneak peek edition of the Desmond Johnson Show. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson. Shout out to Ryan Stone. You can follow him at Ryan Stone Sports on Twitter with his best bets. He'll be joining us every Friday when we're on a regular rotation. I'm going to be on vacation, a much needed one, next week before everything starts rolling here. So we'll be on our regular Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday rotation starting the second week of August. So mark your calendars for that. We've got a huge high school segment here. We're going to be revealing our WTOB and WCOG schedule release. As you know, as I mentioned at the top of the program, Tobacco Road Sports Radio, we are the largest provider of high school sports and live sports broadcasts in the Triad. I was looking at the schedule, and there are a couple of weeks where we have 4 or 5 live games going at the same time on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. You can't get that anywhere else. Some of the largest schools in the Triad as well. And we'll get to that shortly. But first, we're going to do our coaches check-in. Something we'll do here as we go through preseason as high school football officially kicks off here in the Triad. And joining us, new to the family, head coach Marlon White from the Southwest Guilford Cowboys. What's going on, Coach White? How you doing?
Hey, Desmond, how's it going? Thanks for having me, man. So far, so good.
Doing good. Welcome to the family. If everybody missed the press release a couple weeks back, Southwest Guilford has joined on with Tobacco Road to build their own sports network, joining the likes of Grimsley, East Forsyth, Glenn, West Forsyth, and more. We'll have all their home football and all their home men and women's basketball broadcasts on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com, and we'll have those calendars out here shortly. Coach, what's it like, man? I stopped by a couple practices over the past couple of weeks, mini camps and whatnot, but I got a chance to go over to East Forsyth yesterday just to kind of see an actual official practice. And man, I got to tell you, hearing the pads and, you know, just smelling it and just being out there, it just made me realize, man, we're back. We're finally back for the fall. What's it like for you going into this season and knowing that your programs can get a little bit more shine than they normally do in terms of exposure?
Oh, we're looking for it. I think I agree. We have a great group of kids, and I think this is an opportunity for them to get on a better platform, to get them the exposure that they require and that I feel that they need. And it's been going good so far. Like I said, it's a dog days summer. We're getting out there and getting at it, making sure we understand what we need to be doing, being in the right place at the right time, and making sure that we're getting prepared for growth.
Joining us here, Winston-Salem Journal and Greensboro News and Record prep beat writer Marc Pruitt, who will be joining us. This typically will be on Wednesday afternoons, where it'll be all high school football. We'll go through Marc's top 3 games coming up. We'll review the previous week. Probably have a coach or a player stop by for a quick chat and just to check in with us. Marc, how you doing, man? It's about to start rolling downhill, right?
It's time, right? It's time for us. It's been fun. Been going to, I guess, too many 7-on-7s all summer. And, been hitting all the sites the last couple weeks. Just checking in on workouts and checking in with coaches. Coach White, it's good to see you. Nice to meet you. I haven't been out to Southwest yet, but
gotta get out to the ranch.
Get out there at some point. I was out there.
Gotta get to the ranch. Gotta get to the ranch.
Yeah, you might be hearing from my cohort Bryant Roach, the Greensboro News and Record. He might be, if you haven't already.
Let me ask Coach.
I haven't. I work with Brian, and he was in Florida.
Oh, okay. Good.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I see Bryant all the time over at A&T. He's over there on Mondays during the press conferences while we're there. Coach, while we got you on, you're amongst friends here. How do you feel about 7-on-7s? Like, does he even?
Nah. I think 7-on-7. I think 7-on-7 is good skill work. It's developmental, right? So the kids enjoy it, and 7-on-7 has become not even a trend. It's become more or less, to me, it's more or less a show, right? Now, not saying there's not great competition out there, and a lot of great things happen. And kids do a lot of good things. I just think that sometimes it's unrealistic, and then when it comes down to game time, and if kids have those same 7-on-7 expectations during game time, it gets them in a lot of trouble. Like, for example, one of the big things is that the quarterback has 4 seconds to throw the ball. That's kind of unrealistic. Unless you have a great offensive line, you're not going to get that much time. Yeah. That's a long time, right? And I mean, it's one of those slow misses, like 1001, 1002. So we kind of know that we speed that clock up during the regular season. So I think it's great for the kids to go out and have fun, interact with other players and other competition. But I think sometimes it can be a little bit unrealistic when it comes down to what the game truly looks like.
Mark, did you have any questions for Coach White while we had him on? Because I'm having for real briefly before we get to the schedule release here.
Coach, I know it was your second year at Southwest. Is that right?
Third year.
Am I right on that? Third year.
Yes, sir.
Where do you see your guys what's the progression been from the end of last season to now, and what holes are you needing to fill this year all over the field?
Well, I think our biggest transition, like I said, we lost 2 great ones last year. We lost Jalen Carl, who went to Duke, and then we lost Corbin Wilson, who went to North Carolina A&T. And our 2 leading offensive guys, Darius Harrison and Cam McCain, both are going on to college. So that impact hurt a little bit, but we had guys kind of waiting in the wing that were ready. They were waiting for their chance to get in. So I think one of our quarterback, Kel Lloyd, transferred, and this year we felt that was a hole that we needed to fill, but we were kind of prepared for that in all essence. So what we're doing this year is we want to make sure we're establishing our ground game really well. We're going to be a wing team this year, so we're one of the rare few teams in 4A that's going to be that. So we have 4 really good running backs, and we have our quarterback, Jaden Walden, who's a track kid. I think he's like a 10-1, 10-3 track kid. So we want to put some speed on the field this year, and that's what we're going to be known for, flying around and creating some chaos.
Sounds like the defensive coordinators in your conference are going to love you.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch this.
Yes. So,
oh man,
and like I said, that's been my background for a while, and what I did was I wanted to install some of those components in my first 2 years, but understanding where we were from a percentage rate. So when we're averaging 6.2 yards per game on the ground, and then we're averaging right at 4.3 in the air, we kind of see where our strengths are. So I would be doing our kids an injustice if I don't see, okay, this is our strength. Let's go ahead and build towards that and make the most out of it.
Yep.
Joining us, head coach for Southwest Guilford's football program, Coach Marlon White, in the house here on the Desmond Johnson Show. What are your thoughts, Coach? Me and Ryan Stone were talking at the very beginning of this show, the big high school news that kind of came out that kind of shook the state last night. Kendra Harrison transferring from Reidsville to Providence Day. At Reidsville won the 2A state title in football last year and basketball with him. He's kind of being referred to as Julius Peppers 2.0 in terms of 6'7", 235, kind of a freak athlete, plays both sports really well. But my question is not so much about him, but pretty much what probably led to him having to transfer to Providence Day. And it's this whole NIL situation in North Carolina. And I wanted to have this conversation with you and Mark while I had you on the line here. What are your thoughts on this? Because if I'm not mistaken, as it stands right now, public school kids, they can't receive NIL in the state of North Carolina. Private school kids can, which may have contributed to Dre transferring. Where are you where it stands on this? Are you for NIL for public school, high school kids, or are you with the state and against it? And what are your reasons for whatever way you lean?
So I'm kind of on the fence of what NIL stands for, because NIL, when it came out, it was about name, image, likeness. That was the big thing. So, for example, I took for the Johnny Manziel factor, to where A&M at that point in time was selling his jerseys off the rack. So at some point in time, he would get 5 or 10% of those sales. That's name, image, likeness, to where we're selling a product that's representing this young person, and they're getting a percentage of those sales. That's, to me, what NIL means. NIL now is completely different. And then once you add in the collective, which a lot of people don't look at, that is just a different thing. If you looked at news a couple of weeks ago, Oregon now have unlimited NIL money. That means do whatever you got to do to get a kid in our school. And of course, it's going to trickle down to high school, just like the transfers have trickled down to high school. So you can't expect these young men to see college athletes do it and then not expect them to want to do it at the high school level. I think the big difference is going to come in to where you have a kid like that young man who's going up to Providence Day, and I don't know how much he might get in NIL, but he might be making more than a coach. So what do you do at that point in time when you're trying to control different demographics of high school football? So I think that's where you're going to come in with some of the issues that down the road.
I didn't even think about that in terms of, especially at this age, like you got a 16, 17-year-old kid that pops up at your school and they're making like way more than whatever the coach is.
Right.
Like that dynamic, how does that even work? It's almost kind of like in the NBA, or like, like you got somebody making, $45, $50 million a year, and the coach is making like $6 or whatever, and they're trying to tell you what to do. Right. I never even thought of it that way.
And the difference is in NBA, you're looking at adults. You're looking at grown men, and like you're giving a kid $250,000 in high school, or $100,000 in high school, and that high school coach is making North Carolina $7,000, $8,000.
Yeah,
that's right. So, so you're looking at the big difference there, and now you got to manage those personalities at the same time. So, it's a little bit difficult. And now you might be dealing with a high school kid who may come in with a little ego and say, "Look, man, my agent wants to talk to you about what I should be doing in your program." That's not going to work out too well.
Yeah, toothpaste's already at the bottom now, though. Like, I mean,
it's out.
We're there. Like, I don't know what we're supposed to do now. So, head coach Marlon White joining us here from Southwest Guilford. Huge news. We'll probably announce it on our socials over the next couple of days, but we do have it confirmed. You'll have a brand new coaches show live from Kickback Jackson High Point off of Penny Road, off of Highway 68. We'll be in the main private room right when you first walk in. There's a door right there. Seats about 40 people. Cowboy Nation, definitely come out for it. It's gonna be on Monday nights live, 7:30 p.m. I think Max Wallace is going to be your host. He's going to be one of your play-by-play guys. You'll meet him and Colin Wood, your team here soon. They're out of town right now, but they'll be participating and helping out with that show. I'll be on site producing each week, and it's a party. We'll have fun. Come out, have some food and drinks, talk with Coach White. He'll have a guest each week, whether it's a player or assistant coach or whatnot. And it's just a way to really present the Cowboy program in a way that hasn't been presented before. And I'm super excited. When I met with Brendan a couple of months back over on campus, I got a chance to walk through past his office. I didn't realize your gym is like the largest gym like in the area. Like it feels like you see like 5,000 people. It's crazy. Like I walked there, I was like, oh my gosh. Like,
and still not big enough to hold Cherokee when they come to play Bishop McGinnis.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
What is this? Like what happened?
That's the ball game last year.
Yeah.
Cherokee?
It was they bring the whole town of Cherokee. They charter about 3 or 4 buses and bring the fans up with the team to watch the girls regional final last year with Bishop and Cherokee. So it was a lot of fun. Great atmosphere.
Great atmosphere. Yeah, that was a good one.
Incredible. But yeah, Mark, we gotta when you head out that way, let me know because I want to come out and visit the ranch too. I haven't been to the football stadium probably 4 or 5 years now, maybe longer than that. When I was still at WSJS, I went out there to call a game with Dave Pulaski. a while back. Actually, might be my first game now that I'm thinking about it. I did color for him. So definitely, Coach White, much success going forward this season. You're going to see my face a lot going forward. So looking forward to working with you guys and helping present your players and athletes in the Southwest Guilford program.
Thank you for the opportunity. Like, we're grateful that we get this chance, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, and that's Coach Marlon White, head football coach from Southwest Guilford. You'll be hearing a lot from them. Again, their show, I don't know what we're going to name the show yet. We'll figure out what we're going to. I was thinking like Cowboy Nation or something like that. We'll figure it out. But that'll start airing the third. I think the first show is August the 19th. It'll be live on Tobacco Road Sports Radio's audio stream online. And you'll be able to hear it there. And then we usually replay all the coaches' shows on Fridays right before we start running the games. So, and it'll be on the podcast network. So people will be able to get to it a variety of ways once it's on. So appreciate having you on, Coach.
Thanks, sir. Thank you for having me. Y'all have a great day.
All right,
Coach. See ya.
So, Mark, we got a little bit of schedule release going on here.
All right.
This is one of those years where I was going through what we have, and it's a lot. It's a whole lot. Each year we kind of grow a little bit more and a little bit more, and I'm very thankful for it. And we'll see we can actually do what we're all talking about doing, because it's so much football. But if you're looking for like a game of the week or something to that effect, we more than likely probably have it here for you. Let's start off on the WCOG side, because that'll be Greensboro, and it is heavy Grimsley on that side. But just starting off, August 23rd, huge matchup here in the Triad. Grimsley versus Mount Tabor. All these games are 7:30 kickoffs on WCOG. Chase Williams will be your play-by-play over there, and we'll actually have a pregame show for Grimsley this year at 7 o'clock. So you'll be able to check that out there. I believe Coach James Willoughby will be Chase's color commentator for these matchups. Week 2 doesn't get any easier for Grimsley as they get on the road to take on Rollsville, who I've seen ranked number 1 statewide across many preseason polls. And then they come back home and host Reagan week 3. So they got Mount Tabor, Rollsville, and Reagan first 3 weeks of the season. Let's talk about that. What are your thoughts, Mark, on Grimsley's gauntlet here? In theory, they could start 0-3.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah,
I got to put a little drama in there.
I think they've still got plenty of pieces there. Despite losing those 2 receivers from last season. Grimsley Tabor that's the game everybody's talking about week 1 around this area. I think they did this last year at Tabor. And
Right.
Grimsley pulled away in the second half of that game. But that'll be a game that features, we're talking 5-6 major D1 prospects on the field, between Faison Brandon and Bryce Davis and Mitchell Summers and Jadon Blair at Tabor and Snook Peterkin, he's announcing his college choice on the 16th. So there's gonna be a lot of talent on that field this year, just like it was last year. Fun game for the first half I think Tabor actually scored first and had the early lead, but that was then the Grimsley defense kind of shut them down the rest of the way. I think Snook Peterkin got hurt early in the second quarter, but I think he called it was a pretty long touchdown pass, I remember, to open the scoring, but then he didn't play a lot of the rest of the game. So that's going to be a great one. Get your tickets early if they're selling them early, because there will be a lot of eyeballs on that one. First week of the season.
We'll be in the house for that one. Week 2, going to Rollsville. We went 2 years ago, 2022. We went to Rollsville. East Forsyth was doing a back-to-back with Rollsville. They played them in Kernersville in 2021. That was a track meet, actually.
I remember that game. Yeah,
they got up a bit, and then it was just back and forth.
I was at that game. I remember, and Rollsville had a really good receiver, Noah Rogers, I believe his name was, who had committed to Ohio State. And of course, at the time, they were coached by Martin Samick, a good buddy of Coach Willard. So he was a defensive coordinator at East, I think, for a year or 2.
Yeah, he was head coach at Parkland when they had a
he led the turnaround at Parkland. Parkland kind of brought them back from the dead, so to speak.
Shout out to Cam Shaw over at A&T.
But that should be a good game. Rollsville's got they got a great running back coming back. Cameron Jones, I believe is his name. Is one of the leading rushers in the state. last year. Have an outstanding young receiver who I think I want to say he's a junior this season. But Rolesville put up a lot of points last year, and I can't remember what they did in the playoffs. But that's going to be a fun one to watch too.
I think they went a couple rounds in. For me, I'm tentative because I see Rolesville ranked high every year. I was joking with somebody in a high school football group on Facebook, which can be dangerous, especially the ones that are run by the Charlotte folks. They're very avid about their schools. And somebody was mentioning Rolesville, and I was just like, you know what? The past 3 years, I've heard Rolesville. And by week 3, somebody from 336 has gone and beaten Rolesville by a considerable amount. And then we don't hear anything else about Rolesville for the rest of the year. Going back to that East Forsyth Rolesville game last time I was there 2 years ago, East had them on a running clock, started the third quarter. They were up 49-0 at the half. And it was literally the Quayshawn Brown show. Literally, it was him and Jalen Rayner just running up and down the field, just all night long. Grimsley definitely has the talent to deal with this, and that'll be a true test. The state will be watching that game because that's a clash of titans, basically, with Grimsley and Rolesville. And then they get to come back home and take on a Reagan team has been very feisty against Grimsley the past couple of years. Some of those broadcasts we've had, I remember distinctly Ryan Stone and JP Mundy calling a Grimsley Reagan game, I think 2 or 3 years ago, where Reagan was literally on the verge of beating them, and Grimsley pulled it out in the end. It feels like they play tight every year. So that's week 3, another cross county matchup between Grimsley and Reagan.
Yeah, I know that it's been a great series the last several years, like you mentioned already. And I think that's a testament. We all know what Coach Brown is capable of at Grimsley, but Josh McGee, you can't really slight him at all. He's a great coach. He knows where to put his guys every night. He knows how to play matchups, and I think that's why I think one of the most surprising wins in the Central Piedmont last year was when Reagan went to West and beat West. That kind of West at that point kind of looked invincible with their running attack.
Yeah.
And I don't think too many people gave Reagan a chance of winning that game, and they won by, I think, 2 scores. So I know Reagan has lost some key personnel. Jalen Moore, the running back, transferred to East Forsyth. Jacob Smith, great quarterback, one of the better quarterbacks you'll see in this area. He's a junior. He's still got a big target in Jerry Summers, who's really fast. He was part of a couple of state championship relay teams in track and field during the spring. Got a good middle linebacker, Leo Rajicic. I think Reagan, they're kind of, to me, the wild card right now in the CPC. I think it's kind of top heavy with the East and Tabor, and then probably West right there. But Reagan, I'm not ready to write Reagan off ever during the season because of Josh and what I know he's capable of doing with his kids.
With this Marc Pruitt, prep beat writer for the Winston-Salem Journal, going through the schedule release, our annual schedule release for WCOG and WTOB. We're on the Guilford County side. It's Whirly heavy. The Grimsley Whirlies, they'll be back with This Is Whirly Nation. Their coaches show is also on Monday nights at 7:30 at Natty Green's downtown in Greensboro with Coach Brown. So definitely check that out. So Grimsley, Southwest Guilford, both of their shows on Monday nights. East Forsyth and Glenn, their shows are on Tuesday nights. We'll get to them in a minute in the WTOB schedule. And then on Wednesday nights, we have West Forsyth. And Mark, we're actually moving. We're no longer at Mossy's. We've actually moved down the street to the playground.
I heard that.
So we'll be there. Hope you've been joining us the past couple of seasons there. Hope to have you there as well. JP Mundy will still be hosting Titans Talk. Get back to the schedule here. The 4th week after the bye, where literally the entire triad is on a bye that week 4. So I decided we're going to be on a bye too. So we're just not going to run a game that week. We'll need a break by then anyway. September 20th, Southwest Guilford makes their first appearance on the WCOG schedule, taking on Page. That's a good Guilford County rivalry there. September 27th, Grimsley versus Northwest Guilford. That's always a good rivalry. And then October 4th, Grimsley versus Western Guilford. I'm really curious to see Southwest Guilford versus Page, Mark, after just speaking to Coach White, him entering his 3rd season over with Cowboys at the ranch out in High Point, to see if they can make some noise, because the Metro has really been Grimsley than everybody else for like the past couple of years. I think I just wrote in the preview that Grimsley hasn't lost a Metro 4A game since like 2019 or something like that. So they've dominated this conference for the past couple of years.
That sounds right. That's what I was going to say, something to that effect, that I mean, I think everybody's looking up at Grimsley again this season. It's always fun when Page has a great team. I don't really remember the last time they had a great team.
You got to go back to like 2014, 2015 when they won the state.
Well, and I know, with Coach Robertson leaving now, and we got a new coach this season, so they're kind of getting adjusted with all that. And looking at kind of what I've been able to look at on that side of the county line, shall we say, I just don't know that there's enough horses anywhere in Greensboro, maybe Dudley, that can compete with Grimsley. And unfortunately, we'll never see that.
They never see each other. Yeah. And that's always been the combo. Like, if we could play. I'm old school. I graduated from East in 96 when the old Metro foray, where it was East, Dudley, Grimsley, Page, South Stokes, Burlington Williams was in our conference. Like, it literally stretched across like Forsyth, Guilford, Alamance, and Stokes County. Like, all of it was the Carver was in there. So that was back in the day. Things have definitely changed since then. Let's get through it so we can get to this TOB one, because it's a little bit more spread out. Grimsley, Ragsdale, October the 11th, Grimsley and Southwest Guilford. So both of those sports networks will clash on October 18th. That one's at Grimsley. The granddaddy of Guilford County, Grimsley versus Page, that rivalry game, October 25th. I was looking across the board. That's a rivalry date for a lot of schools. We'll sit out on WTOB as well. And then Grimsley versus Northern Guilford closes the season out, or regular season out, at 7:30 on November 1st. First round of state playoffs will begin on November 8th, and we'll have that for you when that comes up. Let's get over to the WTOB portion of it, where you'll be hearing my voice frequently. Let's see if it'll flip it over here. And it did. So the schedule for WTOB here, and these will be out on social media here shortly, so you can save them, put them in your phone or whatnot. Opening up the schedule, Glenn, new coach Tommy Green taking over for Antoine Stevenson, who is now at
Ragsdale.
He went to he was at Eastern Guilford, and now he's at so Ragsdale. He's at Ragsdale now, but Tommy Green taking over for Glenn. Glenn's coaching show has moved to Monte Del Rey in Kernersville, Deepwater. We'll give you some info about that here on social media as well. They take on Ledford week 1. Week 2, East Forsyth hosting Jack Britt coming up from Fayetteville. Myself and Rod Funderburk on the call there. Went out to East Forsyth's practice yesterday. I saw them at minicamp a week or two prior. We'll talk about East here in just a second. And then week 3, an intriguing matchup. The defending 4A state champion Weddington Warriors come up to the Village to take on Coach Kevin Wallace's West Forsyth Titans. So those first 3 weeks there, Glenn versus Ledford. We'll get to see what Glenn's going to be all about right off the bat. Week 2, East Forsyth hosting Jack Britt. And then week 3, Weddington taking on a West Forsyth team that won 8 games last year. Thoughts on the opening salvo there on WTOB?
It's a great week 1 matchup. I think kind of put Glenn in the spotlight a little bit. Ledford, I know they lost their running back. Ledford lost their running back from last season, who he had a really good year. Glenn, I was out there last week talking to Coach Green and a few of the players. They got a transfer quarterback in, Brady Stevenson from Reagan, who was the JV starter last year, and he's looked pretty good. So I'm curious to see how Glenn kind of transforms itself this year under Coach Green. He was a longtime assistant there, so the kids know him, kids love him. Joe McCormick had told me that he's one of the most loyal guys he's ever dealt with in coaching or in athletics. So I thought that was a good thing. East and Jack Britt, I know I think they're starting off week 1 and week 2 with teams from the eastern part of the state. Heritage first week, week 1.
Yeah, well, and all that'll be on the East Forsyth Sports Network. So if they're not on here, you can still listen to their game. We have home and away for East on Tobacco Road's channel. So,
and I think that we could talk about East a little bit more. I know I'm going out there tonight. Actually, I saw them at a 7-on-7 at West earlier this summer, and this will be the first time I've had a chance to get back over there to talk to Coach Willard and some of the guys. But I'm expecting a lot out of them this year. I think they are as well, and I think everybody sort of knows they're the team to beat around Forsyth County and West right around now. So that'll be. I'm looking forward to kind of seeing them, and I might I'm not sure where I'm going to go week 1 yet, but I might go to Kernersville to see East and Heritage just to kind of get a feel for it. So.
I will say this, having been around that program for a while, everybody knows I'm a mater. I'm the voice of the Eagles, so I see them. I'm in tight with that program. I can safely say they are the largest I've seen since probably 1992 in terms of offense and defensive line. We met 2 of their defensive linemen yesterday, and I felt like a kid. Like I was like, they've got Amarian Hayes, number 99, defensive tackle. He's been around us since freshman year, and he's been around the varsity team since freshman year. He's going into his junior year, and he's got this Warren Sapp thing going on. Like, he is built like a cinder block, and he's about 6'3", 6'4". He came over and talked to us briefly yesterday. Me and Rod went out to practice to check him out, and they got another kid that transferred in from Glenn that's going to be beside him on the D line. That got to be like 6'4". He claimed he was 310. We're like, nah, you look more about 345. Like, he's massive. And then the offensive line, they went out. I think they went out and decided they were tired of getting pushed around in November by the likes of Huff and Independence and these Charlotte schools that would come up, and their front sevens would just be bigger than our offensive line. So they made a dedicated effort to change the offensive line. They've got about 3 or 4 or 5 kids that are 6'3" or taller, 300 pounds or heavier. And they've got 2 or 3 kids that are backups that are the same way. Like, they are loaded on the offensive line. I have not seen that in a very long time at East Forsyth. So I have me and Rod have high expectations for them as well. And I can tell from being around the coaching staff, they don't talk about, of course they talk about state championships, their goal. Like, they arrived to that point. They've been there for years. But they don't really clue in on if they think they have a title contender. Like, you kind of got to catch it in terms of code words and just kind of how they're talking, and if they keep things kind of close to the vest. But you can tell they kind of know. They kind of know they got a contender this year. Bryce Baker entered his senior year. They expect big things from him. Jair Richburg's got like 20 D1 offers at wide receiver. They're loaded. So we'll see.
And we hadn't even, I know on defense, we hadn't even talked about Robbie Whitney led the conference in sacks last year. And I know he's one of the kids I asked Coach Willard if I could speak to tonight when I go out there. But I know they got Shabazz transferred in from Oak Grove, and that beefs up that offensive line because he's going to be a kid that's going to get a lot of D1 looks too.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of offers. Yeah,
6'7", 300 something. Yeah, he and Richburg are good friends and play AAU basketball together in the summer. So I'm very interested to see them. Talking to Willard back in mid-June. The first question I asked him, I said, well, there's a lot of buzz around you guys already. He's like, there's always buzz around us, Mark. So
he's right.
He's right. And,
he's right.
You and I guess, both been around the block enough to know when we see what we think we're going to see. My gut kind of tells me this team will remind me a lot of 2 years ago with Jalen's senior year, Quayshawn's senior year.
Yeah.
When I thought in all my years, I've been doing this since 2005, covering high school sports, I thought that was the best team I've seen from East Forsyth. And then they ended up losing to Huff in the 3rd round or whatever that was. So,
at home. Q broke his ankle right before halftime and kind of changed the whole dynamic of that game. And I think that's the difference, I think, between, because that was brought up because I was like, they kind of remind me of 2018 when they won the state championship, where they're built in a manner where you can't just stop one person. Like that 2023 team or 2022 team with Jalen and Q, they were kind of built offensively where if you took out Q or if you took out Javante, if you took one of them out of they kind of had to rely on something else, and they weren't comfortable doing it. 2018, that was when they had like Jamison Warren at wide receiver, and they had a bunch. They had like a platoon of wide receivers, a platoon of running backs. They called them the 4 horsemen or whatever, and they had a running quarterback that could kind of manage it all in Ty Lyles. They're kind of built like that, where they've got multiple people at wide receiver. You mentioned the running back that transferred over from Reagan. They've got him in the stable. They got 3 or 4 kids that are there. They're built similarly to that, but with a bigger O-line and a bigger D-line. So I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to work out.
And I think the running back, that'll I think for me make the biggest difference in what you were just talking about. They didn't really have that one go-to guy last year. I think Jalen Moore. I think he was kind of he became that guy. But Jalen Moore now, the Reagan kid, he's a junior. He ran for almost 1,000 yards last season, and he broke his foot against West Forsyth and missed the last 4 or 5 games. So he's a dynamic talent too, and I think that'll give Coach Willard and Coach Horton and all those guys a little bit more balance if they need it that way. So
over on the other side of the county, week 3, huge matchup. Weddington, the defending 4A state champion, coming into Clemens to take on West Forsyth. Kevin Wallace, first year last year in Clemens, went 8-4. Surprised me. Actually, the conference was on the line last week of the season. East Forsyth had to go to Clemens and win, and they won on a last second 20-some yard pass from Bryce Baker, I believe the Jalen Caldwell in the back of the end zone. Ended up winning by 10, I believe it was in the end. But it was a great back and forth game. We were all out there. We were out there. My 48 was out there. WSGS was doing the game. You were out there.
I was not.
You were there? No, you went to Disney World, didn't you?
I had a pre-planned trip to Disney with my little one.
I forgot about that.
I will say that, that was before I got hired back at the Journal. But I will say that my child and I were eating dinner in Cinderella's castle and following the game online. So because she's a cheerleader. She's varsity this year. She was JV last year. So we had great interest in what was going on during the game. So
bring her out to playground.
Oh, she's going. I've already talked to JP about it, and I recommended to him doing a cheerleader takeover show. So
she's going to recommend. Yeah, he'll do it.
I think she's going to grab a couple of her buddies every week. And
Tell them to come on through. Do some cheers. Getting into the conference part of the schedule again, we're not going to be on that bye week where everybody's off. September 20th, Reagan East Forsyth. September 27th, East Forsyth hosting Davie. October 4th, East goes on the road to take on Mount Tabor. And then as we just motor through the rest of this here, East Forsyth hosting Parkland on October the 11th. That game may be flexed. I'm not sure yet. Glenn hosting Mount Tabor October 18th. We should know a lot about both of those teams by the time we get to that part of the schedule. And then rivalry. Last 2 weeks, East Forsyth hosting Glenn. That's the K-Vegas Cup, October 25th. And then the final game of the regular season, East Forsyth hosting West Forsyth in a rematch of that classic last year that determined the CPC and seeding across the state and everything else. November 1st, the playoffs begin November the 8th. Out of those games, which one in particular are you looking forward to the most?
October the 4th.
October the 4th, Mount Tabor versus East Forsyth.
That's the one everybody's got circled, I think, this year for the Central Piedmont Conference, because like Mike Tabor and Grimsley, there's just going to be an abundance of talent all over that field that night.
That one's going to be fun.
It's going to be a fun one. That's going to be a really good one. That's already on my schedule. That's one of the few I've already got definite that I will be at, because I just know that's going to be Tabor. I think feels like they've got something to prove this season. They were the last team standing.
They got hot. They got hot at the end of last year.
Well, I think they got healthy. They got healthy too. They had a lot of injuries earlier in the season. And I think that really, as Coach Brown was telling me, he was putting kids in places where they hadn't played before. And, that's not the best formula for success when you're playing varsity football. So I know they're eager for it. I've been out there a few times to see them. I can't imagine, nobody's going to be looking ahead, but I think everybody that's one everybody's wants to see, anticipation. I'm interested to see Reagan and East, because once again, like I said with Josh, in his mind and the ability to kind of stay in games with really good teams like Grimsley, he seems to give the Eagles fits too. Year after year.
Reagan and Davie, for some reason, I don't know what it is. It's something about him. Reagan likes maybe it's because they like to throw. Reagan and Davie both like to throw the football around, and that always gives East a little bit of trouble, especially Reagan. When we have to go to Reagan, that's usually. And I'm happy this year we're going to Reagan because I didn't get a chance to mention it earlier. Reagan has overtaken the number one spot for the best press box in terms of food.
They've been that way for a while.
They hook it up.
I enjoy them. North Forsyth used to really lay it out too. They were good. And then East has had some good stuff.
COVID destroyed the press box for East, because they used to have like chili and stuff in there, and like random people come in and out like a buffet. The West Forsyth had the best one up in the cafeteria.
And they used to have the spread. They used to have so many options in there, and it's like and you trying to leave, and they want you to eat even more. And
They're trying to bring it back. They're trying. It was like pizza and donuts when I went in there last year, but they're trying to get it around. It's one of those things where you got to be in the press. You got to know where it is because it's not in the press box. Someone's got to tell you like, oh, you got to go up here, go around, go in the cafeteria. But Reagan, they had like fried fish and like baked spaghetti and like all kinds of nonsense.
They'll get some people that bring the homemade stuff in there. Like usually there's some brownies up there that are really tasty.
We were shocked when we walked. We were like, "What is this?" So like,
Reagan does it right, but it's the hospitality all around really it's fairly good if you need that by the time you get there. A lot of times I've eaten by Friday night. But there's a couple of places.
I plan this out. I plan so I'm like, I don't have to make dinner on September 20th because I know I'm going out to Pufftown. I'll just eat dinner there. That kind of thing.
I'll get the word early on what's on the menu that night wherever I'm going. I'm like, okay, I can plan if I want to eat before I go or not.
So that's it. That's the schedule release. Marc joining me from the Winston-Salem Journal. Both of these will be out on the Tobacco Road website and the Perspective Sports Network websites as well, or the Facebook pages, and across our Twitter and Instagram and everything else. You'll be able to see that there. This show is available now on YouTube, youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. This show will air on terrestrial radio in the franchise player spot on WTOB a little bit later on today at 6 o'clock. So you can hear it there, and you can hear it on WWBG a little bit later on today in its entirety. So definitely make sure you come and check out these games. If you can't come, listen to these games. And these games are also streamed through the NFHS video network at these home schools. So if it's, say, October 18th, it's Glenn versus Mount Tabor on TOB. If you want to actually watch the game and still hear the radio call, log into the Glenn NFHS feed. The call will be underneath it, synced up to it perfectly, and you get the best of both worlds. So definitely check all that out. Shout out to head coach Marlon White, who stopped by from Southwest Guilford a little bit earlier. Shout out to Ryan Stone, came through with best bets and his take on NIL and everything else. And shout out to Marc Pruitt, who'll be with me on Wednesdays, chopping up high school football. It's loaded, and we are here. I'll be off next week for a much-needed vacation, and then we'll be back the following week with our regular rotation, Tuesday, Wednesday, Fridays, here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. So for Marc Pruitt, this is Desmond Johnson. You've been listening to and watching the Desmond Johnson Show here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Have a great weekend.